The Eeveelutions. Amongst Pokemon fans, Eevee is one of the most iconic Pokemon overall. Ever since the first generation, Eevee has been a fan favorite, receiving new Eeveelutions from the first generation all the way up to recently the 6th gen. And the reason why Eevee is so popular is that the fact that it's basically the face of split evolutions. It has so many different variations for everybody to enjoy. Are you the cool edgy type? Well, you'll like Umbreon. Are you the smart nerdy type? And you'll like Espeon. And so on. There is one Eeveelution for everybody. So far, there are 7 Eeveelutions, and they're not going to be stopping anytime soon. However, not all Eeveelutions are created equal. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at which Eeveelutions are best competitively. The first Pokemon we'll be talking about, while technically not an Eeveelution, is Eevee itself. Eevee is a pure normal type with a horrendous base stat total. It has an HP of 55, an attack of 55, a defense of 50, a special attack of 45, a special defense of 65, and a speed of 55. So yeah, it's not so great. However, we shouldn't expect much from Eevee by itself. It's made to look cute, not to be a competitive monster. However, there is one saving grace for this Pokemon, its exclusive Z move, Eeveeum Z, aka Extreme Eva Boost. Now what Extreme Eva Boost does is that it's a Z move that increases all of your stats. So that makes it one of the best boosters in the whole game. And Extreme Eva Boost actually got Baton Passed banned because so many people were spamming that, and then Baton Passing to a stronger sweeper, and then that sweeper would be unstoppable. So, Extreme Eva Boost fills that really specific niche as a baton passer since it's one of the best boosting moves. However, Eevee is really frail and slow, so that will make it hard for it to get up Extreme Eva Boost and then baton pass it away. So, if you want to use Eevee, you have to build your team around Eevee. You can't just tack it on at the end. Your core has to be Eevee and the entire team has to be built around it. And since it's really predictable, like suppose if you're battling in OU and you see an Eevee, you know that it's going to be running an Extreme Eva Boost, so it's really easy to kill. And you can only use Extreme Eva Boost once, so suppose if Eevee gets KO'd or you lose your stats somehow, you won't be able to set up again, so that's one downside to it. And since Eevee is not that good by itself, you should be able to have some sort of a setup for a setup before it. For example, a Pelipper with a Tailwind, or maybe a Mimikyu with Trick Room, or a Porygon 2 with Trick Room. And you have to make sure to send in Eevee on a Pokemon that won't be able to kill it in one turn. And checks and counters for Eevee include phasing Pokemon, meaning Pokemon that can just roar it out or whirlwind it out. Top tier threats like Toxapex, who can just use Haze and delete all of your stat boosts. And then there are taunt users, which will still allow you to use Extreme Eva Boost, but you can't baton pass it away, so that's basically renders it useless. And then again, strong attackers, which will probably just KO Eevee, such as Mega Salamence. So overall, Eevee only fills a specific niche, and that niche too is very flawed. So an overall grade that I'm giving it is a C-. Now on to the water type evolution, Vaporeon. Vaporeon is a pure water type, and it has a base stat total of 130 in HP, 65 in attack, 60 in defense, 110 in special attack, 95 in special defense, and 65 in speed. So looking at that monstrous HP stat, Vaporeon is basically a wall. It's a defensive wall, and it can make use of that special attack a little bit as well. Its usual ability is Water Absorb, which lets it take in water type moves when you switch in. If you switch into a water type move, you can benefit from that. And a good moveset for Vaporeon is Scald, Wish, Protect, and either Heal Bell or Toxic with an item leftovers, and of course the ability Water Absorb. So Vaporeon is not much of an attacker, but is a really good defend, and with Toxic it can wear down the enemy as you just keep on healing and maybe attacking with Scald. Scald can also inflict burns to lower the opponent's attack. So overall, Vaporeon is fine as a wall, but other Pokemon wall better. So overall, I'm giving it a B. Now on to the electric type evolution, Jolteon. Jolteon has a base stat total of 65 in HP, 65 in attack, 60 in defense, 110 in special attack, 95 in special defense, and a whopping 130 in speed. So unlike its water type sister, it's actually a really good special attacker. And just like its water type sister, it has the ability Volt Absorb, which allows it to basically take in electric type attacks without having damage. And with this moveset, again, it's really speedy and it has a decent special attack, so it'll definitely be a really good special attacker. And for a moveset for Jolteon, there is Thunderbolt, which is a really nice stab, Volt Switch to switch out and have some damage. There's Shadow Ball, because Shadow Ball, it runs really good on Jolteon. It's a nice ghost type move, and it allows you to take out some top tier threats. And then there's finally Hidden Power Ice, which allows you to get rid of those pesky ground types, which are definitely a threat to Jolteon. But it'll be able to get rid of them first because of its superior speed, usually. So for an item, you can either have Life Orb or Choice Specs to increase the power of those moves. And then again, ability Volt Absorb. So overall, I think Jolteon is one of the best of the Generation 1 evolutions. I am going to give it an A-. The last of the Generation 1 evolutions is the Fire-type Flareon. Flareon gets the ability Flash Fire, which, like its Generation 1 brothers, basically means that whatever Fire-type moves it gets, it actually boosts its special attack up. It has an HP of 65, an attack of 130, a defense of 60, a special attack of 95, a special defense of 110, and a speed of 65. So you can see it has a really strong attack stat. It doesn't have that good of a speed to go with it, so that's not a good combination, especially looking at that bulk. It's not designed to take hits. So now a nice moveset for this would be with Choice Band, and it would have Flare Blitz, Superpower, Quick Attack, and Double Edge. Then again, it would have Choice Band to increase the power of your physical attacking moves, and of course the ability Flash Fire to take in fire type moves and to increase your special attack. However, Flareon is fundamentally broken in everything it gets. It is definitely the worst of the Generation 1 evolutions, maybe even the worst of all the evolutions in total. We'll look at that later. So the first fundamental flaw with it is that it gets Flash Fire, which would be a good ability, except that Jolteon is a physical attacker. Flash Fire increases your special attack, so having Flash Fire is not that helpful to it. And then next, like I said before, Flareon is a physical attacker, yet it does not get many good fire type physical moves. The only one that it gets is Flare Blitz, and speaking of that, there are not many fire type physical moves. Superpower is fine for taking down rock types, and then you have Quick Attack, which is just not good, and then Double Edge, which is okay, but it doesn't have that normal type stab. Therefore, due to these fundamental flaws, Flareon is actually terrible. You will never see it used, and I'm going to give it an overall score of F. Moving on to Generation 2, we have the Psychic type Espeon. Espeon has the ability Magic Bounce, and it has the stats of 65 in HP, 65 in attack, 60 in defense, 130 in special attack, 95 in special defense, and a nice 110 in speed. So, Espeon is better than its Generation 1 counterparts, and it hits really hard especially. So let's see. It has a set for choice specs, and it has Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, and Trick or Psyshock. So first you have Psychic, really nice Psychic type move, Psychic type stab. That's really the only special Psychic type stab you should ever go for. Next you have Dazzling Gleam, it'll hit hard for dark types. Next you have Shadow Ball, which again hits hard for ghost types. Then you have Trick or Psyshock if you want to switch it up a bit. Fourth slot is really just, you can put anything in the fourth slot. And then again, give it choice specs, boost that special attack. And then Magic Bounce is a really nice ability, especially in OU. Since in OU, status conditions and entry hazards are really common, like Toxic and Stealth Rock. So if you can predict the switch and switch correctly, you can possibly magic bounce a toxic or a stealth rock back. So if your opponent tries to toxic you, it'll just bounce it back and poison them instead, which is a really nice ability. Overall, Espeon is a really nice psychic wall breaker, and it hits hard. So overall, I'm gonna give it a score of a B. On to the second of the two Generation 2 Eeveelutions, we have the Dark type Umbreon. Umbreon is just a pure Dark type with the ability Inner Focus or Synchronize, both of which are good. So its base stat total is a 95 in HP, 65 in attack, 110 in defense, 60 in special attack, 130 in special defense, and 65 in speed. These stats are definitely defense oriented. So if we look at its ability, Synchronize and or Inner Focus stops flinching, but that's not too much of a problem. The real good ability is Synchronize. Synchronize allows the user, whatever status conditions occur to you, occurs to your opponent. So it's like a worse version of Magic Bounce, except that the status condition has to happen to you, and it only works for status conditions, such as Paralyze or Burn or like Poison. So if you get poisoned, the enemy also get poisoned, which is good for wall breaking. Umbreon usually runs a defensive set, which heals a lot. So you have Wish, which heals your team, or just heals you. Then you have Protect and or Moonlight. Protect for protecting yourself, obviously, and then Moonlight for healing yourself again. Then there's Heal Bell, which heals all of your status conditions on your side. So you can synchronize with the other team for to give them status conditions, and then Heal Bell your team, and then they have status conditions and you don't. And finally, you have Foul Play for an attacking move, so you're not completely defenseless if somebody taunts you. And overall, Umbreon is a Dark type wall, something you don't see a lot, and I've faced Umbreon sometime, and they're really hard to fight against. Even Fairy types or Fighting types don't do a lot against them if it's able to set up and all, or even if it doesn't set up, they don't do a lot to them. And overall, it's not that bad, but again, it could be better. It's an Eeveelution, so it's limited by that, so I'm going to give it a score of a B. Now we'll be moving on to the Generation 4 Eeveelutions, and spoiler alert, they're not really that good. The first of the two is Leafeon, which is a pure Grass type. It has the abilities Chlorophyll, and it has a base stat total of 65 in HP, 110 in attack, 130 in defense, 60 in special attack, 65 in special defense, and 95 in speed. Despite defense being its highest stat, Leafeon is a pure Grass type, and Grass is usually not the best defensive type. So most people use it as a strong physical attacker. Its most common moveset is Swords Dance, Leaf Blade, Knockoff, and Return, all which are excellent physical moves. Swords Dance to boost your attack, Leaf Blade, really nice stab, higher chance for critical hits, knock off the other team's item, and then finally Return, which increases in power the more happier a Pokemon is. And then you have Yake Berry, which prevents freezing, or it allows you to get frozen and you eat it and you defrost. So Yake Berry does good, so it won't get sniped by faster water types with Ice Beam. And finally, you have the ability Chlorophyll, and what Chlorophyll does is that in Sun, basically if it's sunny in the battlefield, it actually doubles your speed. So you'll probably want to have somebody who brings out the Sun before switching into Leafeon, so you can get that extra speed and set up and like basically sweep everybody. So Chlorophyll is a really nice ability. However, once again, Leafeon doesn't make the best use of its stats and its typing, and those really hold it back. However, for a pure Grass type, Leafeon does really well. So that's why I'm going to give it a score of a B-. Now on to the last evolution of Generation 4, it's Glaceon. And Glaceon is just absolutely terrible. Just terrible. It's a pure Ice type, and with Ice types arguably being the worst type in competitive, having a specifically pure Ice type doesn't do any wonders for you. It has the ability Ice Body, which lets it regain its health 1/16 every time in Hail, but then again you need Hail setup, and Glaceon is not that bulky, so it's not going to benefit much from it. It has a base stat total of 65 in HP, 60 in attack, 110 in defense, 130 in special attack, 95 in special defense, and 65 in speed. So definitely is a special attacker. Its suggested moveset is Ice Beam, HP Fighting, Shadow Ball, and Baton Pass, with the item of choice specs and Ice Body again. So Ice Beam is a nice good stab move, but if you're going to have Ice Body on you, you might as well run Blizzard, because you're going to have Hail support anyway, so Blizzard would be much better. Hidden Power Fighting gets rid of those pesky steel types. Shadow Ball, I guess, because there's really nothing else that's good for Glaceon. And then Baton Pass, because by this point we've run out of good moves in Glaceon's move pool. Yeah, so then again, Glaceon has a terrible typing, terrible move pool, terrible ability that it needs so much support, Glaceon, that you might as well just not use it at all, because it's going to take more time setting it up, and it's going to take more effort to set it up than it will give back to your team. So you should not use Glaceon. I am giving it a F. Now finally on to the last evolution, introduced in Generation 6, it's Sylveon, which is a pure Fairy type. Sylveon gains the ability Pixelate upon evolution, and it has a base stat total of a 95 in HP, 65 in attack, 65 in defense, 110 in special attack, 130 in special defense, and 60 in speed. So Sylveon is one of the best wall breakers in the meta, as it has Pixelate Hyper Voice, which is probably one of the strongest moves in the game, and it's able to beat down Dark, Dragon, and Fighting type moves, and it resists those specific moves along with Bug type moves. Despite being a pure Fairy type, Sylveon also gains the ability Pixelate, as I told you before. And what Pixelate does is that it turns normal type moves into Fairy type moves, which is great because Sylveon has access to one of the most powerful normal type moves in the game, Hyper Voice. Hyper Voice is a sound-based move that is normal type, but with the ability Pixelate, it gains the Fairy type, which gives it a lot more use. Then you can use Psyshock, which again weeds out the poison types. Then you have Hidden Power Fire to weed out the steel types. And then finally Shadow Ball, just to take down things like Gengar or Mimikyu or other top tier threats like that. Again, you should probably give it choice specs to increase your special attack. So with Hyper Voice being Sylveon's go-to move, Hyper Voice is able to KO, maybe even OHKO many top tier threats in the meta. So Sylveon is definitely the best evolution to use competitively. And that's no surprise because Fairy types are probably the best type to use competitively. So I am giving Sylveon a grade of an A-. So what do you think of that? None of the evolutions in particular are really that good to use in competitive, as they are all monotype and they are all outclassed by many other Pokemon of the same type. But sometimes they're fun to use, and I've even seen people use a team of all evolutions. So what do you think of this video? Is your favorite evolution on here talked about favorably, or are you part of the unfortunate bunch and your favorite evolution is not that good? So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Make sure to tell me your favorite evolution and why. And until next time, this is Rivecha signing out.